Hello and welcome to OSINT, Open Source Intelligence for hackers, investigators, and everyone else. Now I know that was a long title, but I promise the rest of the course will be a lot easier to follow along with. As the title implies, this course is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a hacker, you're an investigator, you work for a corporation, or you're just a home user. OSINT is a critical tool to understand for everyone. In this course, it's going to be highly practical. What I mean by that is I'm going to be going step by step on how to perform OSINT, what OSINT is, why it's important, how to set up your own virtual lab at home, some best practices, different online tools. We're going to be leveraging Google because honestly, the average person barely scratches the surface of what Google is really capable of doing. We're going to be using different software tools. We'll be able to pull GPS locations from a simple photograph. We'll be able to track people down and find hidden information on the internet and much, much more. So, real quick, who am I? My name is Jeff. I have over 18 years of experience in the IT industry. I'm an ethical hacker. Some of my certifications are I'm a certified information security professional, I'm Metasploit certified, I'm an accredited certified engineer, I have a certification U.S. Computer Forensics, Advanced Social Engineering Tactics, and a few others. I've also taken the EC Council's Certified Ethical Hacker version 8 and 9 courses. I've published security articles online. I have a security article published in a magazine, and I've done different public presentations on ethical hacking and OSINT. Okay, now that we have the introduction out of the way, let's get on with the class. I'll see you in the next section. In this video, we're going to be talking about what is OSINT and why it's important to, well, everyone. So first off, OSINT is defined from Wikipedia as open source intelligence, or OSINT, is data collected from publicly available sources to be used in an intelligence context. In the intelligence community, the term open refers to overt, publicly available sources, as opposed to covert or clandestine sources. It is not related to open source software or public intelligence. In this course, we are going to be using free software. There is actually paid software that could help with OSINT searches, but our focus here is going to be all free software, both open source and otherwise. So to me, OSINT is a little bit like being a detective and a little bit like a forensic scientist. It's going out investigating people or places or things, generally people or businesses, analyzing the data and compiling your findings. So why is OSINT important? So for hackers, and this is going to be for both the malicious type and for the white hat hackers and penetration testers. So no matter which side of the fence you're on, if you're a good guy or a bad guy hacker, it's always going to be the first phase of hacking. And I'm not going to get into all the phases of hacking, but there are 5 phases. And the first one is reconnaissance, which OSINT falls under. So in this phase, a hacker is going to try to gather as much information about a target without actually directly interacting with it, without calling them, without actually running scans against the network. Things like this are going to be going online, doing Google searches, and checking out forums and blogs and the company website if they have one, or a personal website, things like that. So another reason why this is actually the first phase in hacking is so hackers don't get caught up in something like this. So in this case, a hacker tried to scam the police by pretending they were the IRS. So obviously, if this person actually did their research, did their reconnaissance beforehand, did a little bit of OSINT work, ahead of time before they try to be the quote IRS, they would have realized that they were calling the police department. Okay, next, so network security teams. OSINT is very important also. So for network security teams, OSINT can be used for things like finding viruses, finding out what they are, finding out what the signatures are, ways around it, hackers, finding hackers, people that try to get on their network, people that got on their network, insider attacks, doing research more into who was actually trying to do damage or did do damage to their network. Other things like investigating scams, emails coming in, vishing, which is basically a phone version of phishing. That's where someone will try to call you directly and say that maybe they're your HVAC person or a new employee and try to get information out from your company. So OSINT can be used to help investigate those things, find out if it's legitimate or not, and if it did do damage, if it actually got through, you can potentially find out who it was and track them down. So employers, OSINT can be a really useful tool. Um, so one thing can be for finding out who your potential employees are going to be. You could do OSINT work into applicants, do a little background searching, find out who you may hire before you actually do. It's not too uncommon for businesses now to actually look at people's social media accounts to get a better idea, because sometimes when people go in an interview or their resume, it doesn't quite match up with who they really are outside of that. So that's where OSINT comes in handy. Other things that businesses could use OSINT for is find out if insider information is being leaked, both intentionally or unintentionally. Unintentionally might be if your IT person who spent the last 3 months setting up your new secure server room, you have, your biometric lock, you got your cameras and all this, high-tech security keeping people from physically accessing that room. But what happens if they get proud and they start taking photos or selfies in the server room because they're proud that it's finally set up and they're really proud of the security and they post it on their Twitter or Facebook account? Well, now that information's out there, so if a potential robber or hacker or whatnot decides to check that out, they can potentially see what type of lock there are, what type of servers or switches are used on that network, and makes it that much easier to figure out how to get in. Or maybe someone snaps a shot of your prototype hardware, like a phone manufacturer, and it gets leaked online. Doing OSINT will help potentially find those things and stop it before it gets too far, hopefully. And other things like this, where a KFC worker was fired on after a Facebook photo which shows her licking potatoes, which I'm sure KFC would have loved to found this out before it actually got into the mainstream news. So that's where OSINT, some of the areas OSINT can really come in handy for businesses. So for everyday computer users, why is OSINT important? Well, let's take a look. So things like Help Wanted, if you're looking for a job and it's a company that you're really not sure about, you could do an OSINT search on them. Nothing illegal. It's, again, all publicly available sources, so you could take a look. You could find out who they are, get more information, and really find out how that company is working, if it's going to be a good fit for you. Things like online dating. Online dating is huge, but another problem, especially for women, are a lot of times people misrepresent themselves. Either they use someone else's photo, or it's a really old photo, or some of the information is completely bogus. So in order to protect themselves, you could use OSINT to do searches on people that you're potentially interested in. Find out, if that photo really is that person, or if this information really matches up to who they are, and possibly find out some information that they didn't mention before. It's great for scammers. Finding out if you are being scammed. If someone calls you up and say, hey, this is your nephew, I'm in jail in this other country, I need you to send me money and that. Or if you get the, hey, I'm a displaced prince and I need to transfer money and this and that. It's the old Nigerian scam does seem kind of funny, but it's been around for a long time and it's still alive and well in one form or another. But with OSINT, you can actually do your research and help find out if it's legitimate, if you're trying to be scammed, and what's going on. OSINT's also great for tracking down people. So maybe an old friend that you haven't talked to in a long time, or a relative that you're trying to track down. OSINT can actually come in handy for finding those people and reuniting yourself with them. Another great thing about OSINT for everyone is see what information of your own is being leaked online. So some people actually Google themselves, so they'll Google their own name. While this is better than not doing this at all, after this course you're going to have so many wonderful tools, absolutely amazing tools to use that it's going to go way beyond just Googling your name. So, and the reason behind that is you want to find out, and you should know, what information of yours is out there and what can be used against you. That way you could reduce what's called reducing your attack surface. So, thieves, scammers, and other dangers, employees, find out if your insider information is being leaked, and finding who your target is. These are all reasons why OSINT is important. So, I'll see you on the next slide. The tools used in this course are free and open source. All the information we gather and analyze are from publicly available sources. While OSINT is also used by hackers, OSINT in itself is not illegal. We are not exploiting systems or people to obtain our information. I am not responsible for misuse of the information and techniques demonstrated in this course. I am also not responsible for lost, corrupted, or otherwise altered or damaged files, software, or hardware. This course is presented on a as-is basis. Now that I have that out of the way, I just want to let you know that I personally tested the sites and software presented in this course. I have not ran into any issues. The problem is everyone's computer and network are different, so there may be a very rare chance that something goes in an unexpected direction. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's get started with the course. Okay, so what are you going to need for this class? There's really not a lot of requirements if you want to do some basic OSINT searches and follow along with the majority of the class. So since you're already here watching this course, that means that you're online. And that's really all you need. You need to be able to get online and open a browser. If you want to follow along with the entire course, you will need to be able to install VirtualBox. So real quick, that means either you have a Apple computer, a Linux computer, or a Apple computer. And for the most part, the requirements for that are pretty low. So any x86 hardware, which is pretty much going to be any computer on the market within the last several years, it's going to need an Intel or AMD processor, which again, you're going to be, unless you're running something like maybe a Chromebook or a Windows RT laptop, chances are you are going to have one of those too. You're going to need at least 512 megs of RAM to run VirtualBox, and you're going to want to have Windows 7, 8, or higher. Personally, I would say either Windows 8 or 10 if you're running Windows. Hard disk space is going to depend on the virtual machine, and we'll get to that in a minute. So what we're going to be running is called Bouscador. So let me open this real quick, and this is going to be the requirements for Bouscador. So Bouscador is going to need 4 gigs of memory. That's going to be above what you're currently running your operating system. So I would say your computer should have no less than 8 gigs of memory. You're also going to need about 10 gigs of free hard drive space. So again, this is all pretty low barrier of entry. And other than the cost of the course, everything else I'm going to be showing you and running through here are going to be free. So that actually is about it for what you're going to need to take this course. See you in the next section. So before we jump in and make our virtual lab, what is virtualization? So virtualization is basically where you take one host or computer and you run multiple different operating systems. Each one of these virtual machines is basically a brand new computer. As far as the computer knows, it's running off an actual computer. So the great part about this is you could have one computer and you could have, say, 3 different types of Linux, Chromium, Android operating system, any number of different operating systems, or even if you're running Windows, you can run another Windows 10 instance or Windows 8 or a Server 2000. As far as, again, as far as these computers are concerned, they're actually a physical computer, even though it's running off your one computer. So this saves time, it saves money. Being able to run, say, 4 different computers off your one computer is a huge savings. You don't have to have a bunch of computers sitting around your workspace or your home. You could actually just spin up these virtual machines and have all sorts of different computers to test and to create a whole network if you needed to. So there's a lot of different types of virtualization, and they work on different operating systems. So again, your Windows operating system can run different distributions of Linux or Chromium operating system. Apple users do have Boot Camp built in, but there's other options. So Windows, Macintosh users or Apple users can run Windows or Linux or any number of operating systems, just like the Windows side. And the same applies for Linux. Linux actually has virtual machines, so you can run other Linux distributions, Windows or Android or any number of other operating systems. So to use virtualization, there's a lot of different programs out there. Some are free, some are paid. Some of the big ones out there are going to be VirtualBox, which is open source and free. OS X has Boot Camp built into it, so you can run Windows right on your Macintosh or your Apple computer. Then there's VMware. VMware is a huge player in virtualization. They have servers, they have home instances, all sorts of really amazing technology from VMware. There is a free version for Windows and Linux user, VMware Player. For Apple users, unfortunately, you would have to get VMware Fusion, which you would have to pay for. And if you're really getting serious into virtualization, you want to run a whole lab for a lot of different users or a corporation, then you're looking at buying an actually enterprise license for VMware. But for the scope of this course, we're going to be using VirtualBox. VirtualBox, again, is free. It runs on Windows, it runs on Linux, it runs on Mac. So for our purposes, it's going to be a great option. It covers a wide variety, and you don't have to spend any money. So to run a virtual machine, really all you need is a computer, enough memory to run your virtual machine. So if your main computer has, say, 8 gigs of memory, you're not going to be able to spin up a virtual machine and give it 16 gigs of memory. It's going to be using your existing resources. So the same applies for CPU and hard drive space. You're going to have enough hard drive space and enough CPU power to run these things. So even though virtualization is scalable, if you want to really get have a really powerful machine, you're going to need a really good host machine. So some of the advantages, other than spinning up all these virtual machines, um, virtualization can help us with viruses. Certain instances, if you run a virtual machine and turns out that you have a virus that gets infected, if you did a snapshot, you could roll back to a previous instance of that computer or virtual machine, and we're going to take a look at that a little bit later in this course. It's also handy for malware analysis. So again, if something blows up your virtual machine, it doesn't affect your main machine normally. So that comes in really handy. It's a lot safer. You could set up virtual labs, which are going to be great. And just again, if you want to play around with different operating systems, it's a great option to use. And that was virtualization. Me installing our virtual machine, our OSINT virtual machine rather. And for that we're using CSILinux.com. It can be found at csilinux.com/download.html. Now, first and foremost, I do want to give a shout out. One of the students here did bring this up and remind me about the CSI Linux, which is great because I totally got sidetracked and forgot about it, to be honest. But circling back, this is a really good operating system, and it is still being supported, which is great. So CSI Linux in a nutshell is a OSINT virtual machine based off of Ubuntu. And it has quite a bit of tools that we're going to be using for this course. If you've taken the course already or you're partially through, you may notice that we changed the operating system. So don't worry about it. The install methods, the methodology is all going to be the same. But as things progress, I'm going to start switching out those old videos with the CSI Linux to try to avoid confusion. So again, don't worry about it. We did switch the operating system, but it is actually based off of the same OS, Ubuntu / Debian Linux. So getting back to the CSI Linux, again, it's a pretty robust operating system. It's actually really cool. It has 3 virtual machines built into it. So there's CSI Linux Investigator, which we're going to be focusing on. That's going to have our OSINT investigation tools. There's CSI Linux Analyst, which is for digital forensics. CSI Linux Gateway, which will send all the CSI Linux analyst traffic through the Tor, so that helps protect your anonymity if you're doing the analysis part. And also there's CSI Linux Seam, which you can use for incident response, intrusion detection. We're not going to be getting into that, but that's a really cool feature to have there. So when you get in there, the default login and password is going to be CSI for both. Now scrolling down to here, the minimum requirements is going to be 8 gigs of RAM free. They do recommend more, 70 gigs of disk space. So you can actually delete out the other virtual machines for CSI Linux if you don't want to get into it. The main one, again, we're going to be concentrating on CSI Linux Investigator. And also they suggest 70 gigs of free space or more, 4 cores, and we'll need VirtualBox and obviously internet access. So to download, you could either download it from the Dropbox here or the torrent. And current version is 2020.2. So when you download it, if you do the Dropbox here, it's going to be just over 17.5 gigs. And you can click the download and go ahead and download it. So I did that ahead of time to save time. So I have my virtual machine here, my VirtualBox. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File. I'm going to do Import Appliance. Okay. And for the file, I'm going to click on the yellow folder here. And then I am going to go to Downloads. And I'm going to grab the CSI Investigator OVA. I'm going to click Next. And in here, this kind of gives us all the information about the hardware. I'm going to click on Import on the bottom. And we're going to import our virtual machine here. So this is going to take a moment. I'm going to pause the video here, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So that took a few minutes to install, but as we see here, we have CSI Linux Analyst, CSI Gateway, CSI Seam here. So I'm going to go click on the CSI analyst, and what we could do is go to settings here, and I'm going to go to USB. Now, I've actually had problems with the USB trying to start the VM, so if you do have problems starting the VM, it gives you a USB error, you might want to switch to USB 1.1 and click OK. So now that I have that set, I'm just going to double click this, and we're going to start up the CSI Linux analyst and take a look at it. Now the nice thing about this that I found compared to some of the other ones is actually automatically goes into full screen, which is great. So we'll give this a moment to boot up here. And once we get in there, we'll take a quick tour of CSI Linux and also do the update for it. And let me pause the video real quick. This is taking a little bit because I got some other VMs running here. So we'll be right back when it loads up here. Oh, actually, I think it's loading up right now. Okay, so here we go. So the login is CSI. The password is going to be the same, CSI. And we're going to go log in here. Okay, so let me minimize that real quick, and I'm going to maximize it, and there we go. So if it doesn't full screen right away, go ahead and minimize it. You can click up in the upper corner here and then click it again and maximize it, and it should go full screen again. So CSI Linux is pretty cool. Again, it's a OSINT investigation operating system based off of Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is based off of Debian Linux. So real quick, up in here we can take a screenshot. We could, if we want to record our entire session, we can click the record my desktop here. Down in here, it's much like any other operating system, Windows or OS X to a certain degree. We have some great tools in here already set up in here. We have Cherrytree, Chrome, Firefox, Tor browser, Onionshare, KeyPass XC. We have GPA. We have Pigeon Instant Messenger. Hunchly 2 is already pre-installed on here. We have some social media tools, Multigo, Ghidra for if you need to reverse engineer any malware. There's Autopsy for digital forensics. It's another great tool. And we go here, click the little gear here. We could actually go into, it's all kind of broken out here. We have OSINT online investigation tools, and again, we have a lot of great tools in here. Secure communication, encryption. We have OpCrack if we need to crack passwords, Hydra, Medusa, Cruel, steganography tools here. We have some dark web tools in here. Incident response, computer forensics, mobile forensics. So if we get a hold of a mobile phone, iPhone, Android. And we also have some of the CSI tools, gateway, domain, search, and whatnot. So first off, what I always like to do on any Linux instance is I like to update it. So I'm going to go and click the terminal here, the XFCE terminal, and we're going to click that. Okay, and let me maximize this. I'm going to click on, don't show this again for backing up. And let's take a look here. So first thing we want to do is we want to sudo space apt-get space update space and apt-get space upgrade. Now what sudo does is that tells the computer we're running this command as an administrator. Apt-get space update means we're going to update the operating system, and means we're running another command along with the first command. And upgrade means we're going to upgrade the OS if there's an upgrade to it. So let's hit enter. So it's going to ask for the password. I'm going to type in CSI, hit enter, and it's going to go through the install. And this should be fairly quick. Linux is really good about doing the updates, so the updates tend to be pretty fast. And in here we can see where all the different things are updating and which repository it's grabbing it from. And in the later videos, we're going to be kind of going through these tools into one by one, and we're going to be executing them and learning how they work. And for the updates and upgrade, you want to do that periodically. Especially, I would recommend doing it at least before you're doing an investigation. It will make your life easier. It will secure your operating system in case there's anything that you need to worry about. Okay, so if you look down in here, there is error here. Front end locked on your root. So let's take a look at this again. Actually, let me clear the screen here. And let's take a look at that command again. So it was sudo apt-get space update and space nn space apt-get upgrade. So the problem with that is, since after the nn it runs as another command, what I really should have done was, after the nn, type in sudo space apt-get upgrades, which means, again, this is running, I can simply type sudo space apt-get space update, run that, and then I could have ran sudo space apt-get space upgrade as a separate command. Running it as a single command with the nn, I totally forgot to put in the sudo here, so make sure you do that. And I'm going to hit enter, and it should go through really quick because we already did the update. So it's going to do the search. It's not going to find any updates, but then it's going to find an upgrade. Okay, so this is pretty typical. It's going to tell you there's an upgrade that's going to take this amount of additional space. Do you want to do it? I'm going to click yes or Y and hit enter, and it's going to do the upgrade. So that did the upgrade for it. Next videos we're going to be kind of taking a look at the programs individually. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. In this video we're going to go over some really quick Linux commands. Now we already saw the apt-get install or apt-get update and upgrade. We also talked about sudo, and if you forgot what sudo is, that actually runs the command as a administrator. By default, Linux will not run commands as administrator. That's part of the protection within Linux. Now, these other commands I'm going to show you real quick. We have the terminal open. If you forgot where it is, just simply click the little black box down here that says XFCE terminal. And here we have our terminal. So let me zoom in a little bit here. And the other commands we're going to take a look at, there's ifconfig. And that's essentially, if you're coming from Windows network, that's going to be just like an IP config. This is going to give us our IP address. Okay. Next one we could do is clear. So if I type in clear, it's going to clear everything off the screen. I could do iwconfig, and that's going to give us our wireless adapter information. Since this is a VM, we don't have a wireless on here, so if you don't see one, don't worry about that. Okay, let me clear out the screen. We have ls, so that'll list everything in the directory that we're in currently. Then we could do cd for change directory, space, and then we could type in go, for example, and then so that takes us to the go directory. Now if I do ls, that'll list everything in there. Okay, let me clear that out. Now we could do cd space ... and that'll take me back one directory, change directory space ... and again that'll take us back one directory. Okay, let's take a look at Onionshare. So another thing you do need to be careful about is Linux is case sensitive. So I could do cd Onionshare, and Onionshare is right here. You can see the O and the S is capitalized. So if I try this, it's not going to know what that directory is. but if I do cd space capital O-N, and another trick with Linux is we can do tab and it'll do what's called an autocomplete. That's going to finish typing whatever it thinks that we're trying to type in. That saves a lot of time. So I'm going to do cd space Onionshare, capitalized, hit enter. We're going to do ls, and there's nothing in there. So another way you can back up is you can do cd without a space and dot dot. I'm sorry, cd space dot dot, and yes, that'll take us back. Okay, so clear that out. And another command we could do is called git, and we'll be taking a look at that a lot later in the course. So git is, there's a website called GitHub, which there's a repository of a lot of fantastic software. Now we can do what's called a git clone. And what that means is that we're going to clone the repository. So we could do git clone space and then the URL, and it'll download whatever files are there. It comes in really handy when you're grabbing stuff from GitHub. And again, we'll take a look at that more later. The last command I'm going to show you is apt-get install, apt, or actually let's do sudo space apt-get space install, and then you could type in any name. For example, I could type in Audacity, and if it's in the repository, it's going to install for us. So CSI is our password, and actually it is there. So I'm going to click yes. And I didn't have to go out to the Audacity website. I didn't have to download the file. I didn't have to click execute the file to install it. I simply typed in sudo space apt-get space install and then space Audacity. And since it was part of the Linux repository for this, it found the Audacity file and installed it. So if I go in here, I can type in Audacity, and there's our program here. If you're not familiar with Audacity, Audacity is a really good program for sound, audio. We could take a look at the waveforms. We could do audio recordings. We can kind of pick it apart. We could clean up the audio. A lot of great things you could do with Audacity. So that was a quick tutorial about some essential Linux commands. We'll be going over more likely more Linux commands as we go through the course, but I'll kind of explain it to you as we use it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Talking about snapshots. Now, snapshots is a pretty essential part of virtual machines. Doesn't matter if you're using VirtualBox or VMware or any other virtual machine. Doesn't matter if you're doing OSINT investigations, IT work, home use, whatever. If you're using virtual machines, I highly recommend that you take snapshots. Now, there is one caveat with with VMware. If you're using the player, snapshots are not included in that. You are going to have to pay for the full version of VMware in order to get the snapshot capability, which is part of the reason why we're using VirtualBox. VirtualBox is open source, and you are able to take snapshots without paying a fee. So if you're not really familiar with snapshots, essentially snapshots is it takes a snapshot of your operating system at that point in time. So a lot like OS X, Time Machine, you could take a snapshot. So say I have my CSI Linux, I get it configured the way I want, I got all of the software installed on there, I could take a snapshot of that. So after that, if I can install 100 programs, make 1,000,000 changes to the operating system, if I want to go back to the original point in time where I had installed, I configured everything the way I want it, I can simply invoke that snapshot and the operating system goes back to what it was in that point in time. So that's really useful for a lot of reasons. So one is, if something goes horribly wrong, say I get a virus, I install some software, I make a bad configuration, I can't figure out how to undo it, I can simply restore it back to the previous snapshot, as long as I have one there. If I get my virtual machine set up for my OSINT investigations exactly the way I want it, everything's up to date, I take a snapshot. From that point on, whenever I do a new OSINT investigation, I could just roll back that snapshot, go back to that one and do an investigation on a clean machine. I don't have to keep wiping out machine or creating a new virtual machine every time I do an investigation. It's a clean machine because I revert back to the snapshot. So really handy. Again, we could do multiple snapshots too. Say I'm doing something. I'm going through an investigation. Everything's going great. I get to a part where this might be a little iffy going and checking out this website. Maybe the website is some malicious hacker. They've been known to have put out some nasty viruses. I feel like they're pretty smart. They're probably going to put some landmines in there for me or whoever else is kind of creeping on the site. So I could take a snapshot before I go there. Go there, have something blow up on me. I can revert the snapshot back, which also might be handy for things like analysis. So if I want to see what the payload of this particular site is, I could have it blow up on my virtual machine, revert back to snapshot, or even take a snapshot of that so I can further do analysis on that later. There's a lot of different choices with snapshots. It's a really great option to have. So let's take a look at how we could take a snapshot. So first of all, you want to highlight whatever you're taking a snapshot of. This, I'm going to take the CSI Linux Analyst, and I'm going to click the little camera icon here that says Take. And then we can change the name to whatever we want. CSI Base, I'm just going to name it CSI Base, and I'm just going to put down initial install with Audacity. Okay, and snapshot description, I do recommend putting in some sort of description in there, because if you have a lot of snapshots, you might forget what those particular snapshots were. For me, I definitely am going to forget if I have a lot of snapshots and I come back to this, say, a month, 2 months, a year later. I'm probably not going to remember what those snapshots were in that particular time. That's why having the snapshot name and the snapshot description is going to be really useful. So I'm going to click OK. Okay, so here we see two different options. We have the CSI base, which is the one I just created, and the current state. So the current state is going to be whatever the operating system is currently looking like. And if I want to revert back, I can simply go CSI base, and I can click restore, and I'll restore that snapshot back to that point in time. So again, really useful option. I do really suggest that you explore it, use it, and it's really going to kind of save you a lot of time, because again, something blows up, something goes wrong, you don't have to start from scratch again. You can just revert it back to a snapshot. And again, you could have as many snapshots as you want, as much hard drive space as you have to accommodate it. This is all about snapshots. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Look at the program Cherrytree. Now, Cherrytree is a hierarchical notation software, and it's built into CSI Linux. So let me close this real quick. And I have my CSI Linux instance open right now. So if I click down here in the bottom here, this little cherry icon, it's going to go ahead and launch Cherrytree. So it's pretty simple and it's pretty easy to use. I like it a lot. Again, we could build a tree format for notations, which is going to be really important when we're taking notes. The other great thing is we can export this as a PDF file. We can export as an HTML file. We can embed links, we can embed photos, files, and whatnot in here. So let's take a look how this works. So I'm going to just go to File, I'm going to go to New Instance here. Okay, and then if I right click on the empty field here, I could do Add Node. So I'm just going to start this off as New Investigation. And if I want to, I could bold this. I could select a color for it. Let's select, actually let's give it red. I'm going to click OK here. And we could even tag this to make it a little bit easier to find. But since this is the main part, I'm just going to click OK, and there we go. Highlights in red, New Investigation. I could put down user. I could put down client. I could put down contact information, and I could also, it's just like a word processor, I can highlight these things, I can bold it, enter, space this thing out here, I can make bullet points in here, so by clicking up in here, I can create bullet points, I could do insert a table. So again, it's a lot like a regular word processor. So, pretty easy to use, pretty simple to get your head wrapped around it. So let's take a look at some more features in here. So there's my main node here. So if I right click this, I could add a subnode to this. So the subnode, I'm going to put down social media, and I'm going to click OK here. And then I'm going to go to the main part of this new investigation. I'm going to add a subnode here, and I'm going to do website, just to give you an idea. Let me add another subnode here. Email, and I'm going to click OK. So now we have our main part here, and these are the subnodes to that main section here. So in these subnodes here, I can add subnodes to those. So social media, I can do Facebook. I can click on social media again, add another subnode. I could do Instagram. And then email, I could do Gmail. Outlook. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually breaking out these sections. So say I'm creating notes on someone. I have a social media section here, and I can put notes in here. Notes found social media accounts, and I could highlight this. I could bold this if I want. And then under Facebook, which if people are paying close attention, I did misspell Facebook, but this is just a demonstration, so not a problem. So on this Facebook, I can add a subnode here, and I can put down a main page. I could put down, click up here again, add a subnode, and I could add followers and whatnot. So it depends how much granularity you want to put in here. So again, really handy. It's easy to navigate. If I just want to look at Facebook and I want to take a look at their main page, I can click this. Now if I want to embed anything, I can right click in here, and I can do insert. I can insert a table, I can insert a file, I can insert links. Here we could do check boxes in here, to-do lists, and whatnot. So again, really handy to have this. Again, if I actually, let's import a file in here. Let's see if this has a file for us to put in here by default. So we're going to insert an image here, and let's take a look what's in our CSI downloads. There is nothing there. Pictures. Here we go. So let's take this picture, and you could resize it, height, width. I'm just going to leave it default, so I'm going to paste that in there. So say we found this on their Facebook page. We paste in the image that we found in here, and then we could save this as by default it saves as a SQLite, not protected. We could also do a password protect, which is great. Say we're collecting information, we could create a password in case if we're worried about this information getting leaked, and then of course give that to whoever asked us to do an investigation. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm not going to worry about password protected because this is just a demonstration. So we can cancel that. Other thing we could do is, so let's save this real quick. Save it as CBT. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to put it on the desktop here as demo. Okay, and there. So we also could do, if we could export this. We could export to a PDF file. So you could select the text only, you could select the node only, or you could do all of the tree including the subnodes here. So I'm going to click OK, and we're going to take a look at the different formats and what it looks like. So we got a desktop, and I'm just going to do
CVT PDF. Actually, I'll just leave it CVT like that. And we'll put this on the desktop here. We'll save that. And then we can go to export, and we can export as HTML file. And I'm going to do all of the tree and click OK. And again, let's put it on the desktop. And let's close this out. So we have three different formats that we created. One's a CTB, which is a Cherrytree template. So if I open it, it opens up Cherrytree. Now, if whoever's viewing the file doesn't have Cherrytree, obviously they won't be able to open it. We also have the PDF. Now, I do want to warn you, if you're doing a PDF file, depending on how you're breaking out your Cherrytree, the PDF is not going to be the right format for you to look at. It's going to look really weird. Now, we saw in the demonstration that it had a really nice flow to it. Everything was broken out very cleanly. It was very easy to navigate. But let's take a look at the PDF version. So, of course, this was a single page before, and these were kind of the subnodes. But now, since we have it in PDF format, it can't actually break it out. It looks really weird. So, again, depending how you format your Cherrytree is going to depend on what the best export is going to be. And for a lot of people just like to look at the PDF file, so you're going to have to build your Cherrytree accordingly. So you might want to play around with it beforehand. That way you don't get too far into it and have to reformat everything. So let's close this out. Now, the way I had that broken out, the best way to look at it is a HTML file, which we have here. Here's a demo HTML file. So let's open this up. Okay, and I'm going to open up the index page. So if you know anything about HTML or built web pages, your index is going to be your main page. So let's go ahead and open this. Okay, and I am going to just close this because I really don't care about opening up, restoring any pages. Okay, let me close this down here. And here we go. Here's our page. Let me see if I can zoom in here. A little hard to see. There we go. So here's our index. Here's our new investigation. That's our main page. And here's all the subnodes. Here's the social media subnode. And under that subnode, we have Facebook or Facebook. And then under that subnode, we have additional subnodes, main page. So let me click on this because it should have that CSI image. And there we go. So this is Cherrytree. Again, it's a highly flexible program. It's free, open source. It's built into CSI Linux. And again, it's a really great notation program. So I do recommend checking it out, trying it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Welcome to this bonus video. Now, in two of my courses, the OSINT course and the ethical hacking course, basically the same question came up. Some people were confused on how to get the file or how to start Cherrytree and open the templates that I made for it. So I'm making this video to show everyone where those files are and how to load them up in Cherrytree. And I also want to thank everyone for purchasing these courses. I do appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions or problems, always feel free to reach out and contact me. I'll do my best to get back to you and answer your questions. So let's jump right into this. So I have my virtual machine open. In this case, it's Bouscador. Now for the Kali Linux users, as long as you're running the 2018.x, you should have Cherrytree installed already, so you can skip this step. But for people in the OSINT course that are running Bouscador and trying to use Cherrytree, don't forget you do need to install it. So what you need to do is open a terminal and do sudo space apt-get space install space Cherrytree and hit the enter key. And type in the password, which is going to be OSINT. Okay. In my case, I already have Cherrytree installed, and it's up to the current version. So I'm going to close this terminal out, and you should see something similar to this if you're taking the OSINT course. So I'm going to just scroll down here, and you want to download any of these, either of these templates or both of them if you want. Now for the ethical hacking side, it's going to be the same thing essentially. You can want to scroll down to taking notes, agreement forms, and you'll see this OSINT pen test template. So I'm going to download that. Okay, so I'm going to download this. I'm going to save the file. Okay, that should be about done. So the file should save in the root. So Bouscador and Kali Linux is going to be the same thing. So if you browse over to the root of your folder, I'm just using the File Explorer for Bouscador to get there, you should see your file that you just downloaded. Well, let's see here. Actually, I do take that back. In this case, it's going to be under Downloads. As we see here, we see this pen test template. Actually, this one shouldn't be there. I'm going to delete that real quick. Okay, you're going to see this zip file, depending on which one you download. All you need to do is right-click it and open with the Archive Manager. Okay, and I'm just going to click Extract, and it's going to extract in the same folder that was in. Again, I'm going to click Extract again. Okay, extraction complete successfully. I'm going to quit out. And here's our folder. Now if I double-click in here, I'm going to see the different templates, again, depending on which one I downloaded. And to open this up, all you need to do is double click on it and it's going to open up in Cherrytree. So if I click here, I can actually just kind of scroll through here. I can click on the plus, and I can see all the different sections in here. And I could actually just go in here and I could start filling in information. My client. Okay, and again, pretty simple. Really easy to use. Again, I highly suggest Cherrytree. I think it's a fantastic program to do note-taking on. As you see in the videos, it's a really robust system, really easy to use. And again, this is how you download the file, and this is how you open up the templates. Now again, feel free to mark this up however you want. Occasionally I do go in, I change the templates around a little bit. Again, this is kind of really a generic template, so build it out to however it's going to fit your needs, because everyone's needs and the way they operate is going to be different, so the template should change with that. And in my case, I do actually change the template for my own personal use, so hopefully this helps everyone. If you still have questions after this, let me know and I will do my best to get back to you and help you out. So other than that, hope you have fun, hope you learn a lot, and enjoy. Thank you. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at ways to protect your data. So when you're doing OSINT, chances are you're going to want to keep the data that you're collecting private. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at a couple ways to do that. So the first program I want to show you is called KeePass. So what KeePass is, it's a password safe. It's open source and it's free. It's available for different operating systems and different devices such as Android and iPhone here. So password safes are important. You don't want to use the same password across multiple sites. Problem is, if you do that, if your password gets compromised, it gets compromised across every device, every account that you have. The other problem is, with computers especially, if there's a keylogger on there, the point of a keylogger is it logs your keystroke, so people are going to record your password. The way around it is, since password managers will do what's called an auto type, keyloggers normally can't pick that up, so that adds another layer of security here. So I already have KeePass installed. So let me open it up here, and it essentially looks like this when you start a new database. So it's pretty easy. You have your general window, your Windows, network, internet, email, home bacon, and your recycle. And you can create more if you want to, just by right-clicking and do Add Group or Edit. Now in here I have a entry for Proton Mail, which we'll be talking about momentarily. And if you want to add a new entry, you simply just right-click and do Add Entry, or If you look here, you could do Control L. So in here, you type in the name. So say we want to do Gmail. So you could do gmail.com. You enter in your username, my username, and then by default, it's going to come up with a randomized password. So as you can see here, it's 20 characters long and 116-bit quality. So it's a very strong password. And if I click these dots here, we can see what it generated. So that's definitely a really tough password to crack, versus something if you did password changing the A to an add and the S to dollar signs, which will take about 15 seconds for an average computer to crack. So this is a really hard password to remember for anyone. But again, since this is a password safe and it performs auto type, you don't even have to remember what the password is as long as you have access to the program or your device or anything else that has a KeyPass. So it makes it a lot more secure. And down in here, you type in the URL that you want to go to. So I could do gmail.com, and you can type whatever notes, password for my Gmail account. And you could also set an expiration date for your password if you want to add another layer of security. Now, if I go through here, these are advanced tab. You could do mess around with the strings and file attachments, properties. You can set the auto type. Normally, you won't have to mess around with any of this. Just having this in here set up makes a big difference. So let me cancel all this because I already have an entry here that you can see. So this is for my Proton Mail account. So this is Proton Mail. You can find it at mail.protonmail.com. What this is it's a free email service that's fully encrypted end to end. This is a wonderful email service. I highly recommend it. And if you get the premium service, you get a few extra features out of it. Or they also take donations to help keep their service free. So anyway, here's the login screen for Proton Mail. So let me go back to that. Now, if I want to actually log into the site using this, I can simply right-click that particular entry, and I could do Perform Auto Type, or I could do Control V. So let's watch. It's decrypting, and there's my email. So this is a wonderful program. You could have any number of entries in here. So say you have 10 different emails, your social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all other different accounts. Everything, your accounts and your passwords stored in a password vault that's encrypted. So it's just a really critical program to use, whether you use KeyPass or LastPass or any number of password safes. What I do recommend is that you do your research on which one you use. I particularly like KeyPass because it is open source. It's been around for a long time and it's very well regarded. Okay, now another program I want to show you is Cryptomator, rather. So as you can see here, it's a free client-side encryption for cloud files. It is open source, no backdoor, no registrations as it says. It's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, so that pretty much covers all the bases for where you're going to be installing this to. Again, it is free. You can donate to it if you want, and there are mobile options, both iOS and Google. So again, you can encrypt files not only on the cloud. You can store encrypt files locally or on a flash drive also, which comes in really handy in case you lose those devices. So things like if you have a Dropbox folder. So in here, this is my Dropbox folder. The particular folder that I encrypted is called private. So as you see in here, it adds a couple files. Windows really doesn't know what to do with it because it is an encrypted file. If I click through these folders here, you can't see anything in here. Now, if you open up Cryptomator, you could either click the plus here to create a new vault or open an existing vault. Now, if I want to open one, well, actually, let me type in my password here, and I'm going to click Unlock Vault, and I'm going to type the correct password in here. There we go. Okay. And as you can see, my encrypted folder, there's nothing in there yet. So let me add something. Secret document. Okay, we'll lock that. Let's unlock it again. And there's our secret document. Now let's create a new one. Let me lock this real quick. Now if I click this little plus down here, I could do create new vault. And you name your vault name. So I'm just going to say demo. I'm going to save that. Then we type in a password. Let's type in test, and as you can see here, it's a weak password, which is okay because it's only a demo. And here it says, if you forget your password, there's no way to recover your data. So it is important to remember that. And again, we could actually add it into our KeyPass file if we wanted to also. So let's unlock it. I'm going to type in test. Click on unlock. There's our test folder. Let's add a file in there. Top secret. Okay, and let's lock that vault. And it's going to have a warning here. Do you want to force locking? This may cause other programs that are still accessing the vault to become other problems occur. So I'm going to click yes. And as we can see in here, if I click in here, it's just a bunch of gibberish. So let's go ahead and unlock that file again. Test. And there's our file again, unencrypted. So again, this was a video looking at different ways to protect your data. KeyPass, ProtonMail, and Cryptomator. Again, it's whatever you use, it is important to use some sort of program to protect your login, your passwords, and your data that you're working with.
Look at Onionshare. Now, Onionshare is part of the Tor network, and what we could do with this program is actually share files over the Tor network. That's allowing us a secure connection. So this is really good if we're transferring files. We're really concerned about keeping these files secure over transmission. So let's take a look at the program itself. Again, it's going to be another program that's built into CSI Linux, but there is a Windows client, there's a Linux client obviously, and there's also an OS X client. Now if I go in the bottom bar here, I can click this little circle with the two arrows, and we see here Onionshare, share a file securely and anonymously over Tor. So let's click on this. Now the first thing you'll notice is it is connected to the Tor network here. Okay, and we'll give that a moment to connect. Now I do want to warn you, Again, this does make it secure. It does make it anonymous for sharing files, but it's also going to be pretty slow because, again, it's running through the encrypted network. So there is going to be a trade-off. It will be slower, definitely a lot slower than, say, if you emailed it or thrown into, say, Google Drive. But this is going to be far more anonymous, far more protected in doing this. So I have my Onionshare open here. Let me just maximize this. And to start sharing, we could either drag and drop a file in here, or I could click this add button down the bottom. So I'm going to click add. I'm just going to share this demo CTB Cherrytree PDF that we did. Okay, so I'm going to click this, and it's going to start sharing. Now we're going to give this a few moments here to give us a link. And as you see here, it's 27.1 kilobytes. Okay, and then we'll click on this green bar here, start sharing. And okay, here we go. Now we have this really long encrypted address here, HTTP, and it's got this long string here, .onion. So we see that it's going through the Onion network. So I'm just going to click on copy address here. Now, once you have this address, you can give to someone else that has, say, the Tor browser. And on their end, I have the Tor browser on my main machine here. We're going to click here. And once they have the browser open, they just simply paste in whatever the URL that you have here. Okay, and this is going to generally be pretty slow because, again, it is routing through the Tor network. So I'm going to pause the video here. This will probably take a couple minutes. So let me pause it, and once it comes up, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, and we're back. So here we go. So on the receiving end, again, I have my Tor browser open. I pasted the address, and I can securely message this wire, Proton Mail, whatever you feel safe is going to be safe for communicating this URL out. Once they have it, they have their Tor browser, they paste in the address. Here's the file. So I have the file name, I have the size, and then I simply click download file to download it. So again, this is just another way to transfer files over a secure network. And again, Tor is one of the most secure ways to communicate. So, and also anonymously. And it's built into CSI Linux. And again, we don't need Linux per se. It's also on Windows and OS X if you want to get the client also. So again, really useful software, open source, secure communication, anonymous, and really handy to use and very easy to use. So once the person has their file, we can do stop sharing, and it'll cut everyone else from receiving that file. So this was all about Onionshare. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
In this video, we're going to be taking a look at business searches. So if your target happens to be a business, these are going to be some tools and techniques that you can employ to help you with your OSINT search. So first off, if you're doing a OSINT on a business, you'll want to take a look at their company website if they have one. Things you want to look for on their website is going to be the URL you want to take a look at if there's a company directory. So take a look at names, employee names, positions. Do they have a news section? Do they have a photo gallery? Do they have a forum? Telephone numbers, calendars. If they do have photos posted, you want to take a look at what you could find in those photos. Does it show their server room? Does it show the layout of their building? Does it have show things like operating systems, or if you get lucky, maybe it'll have a photo, sticky note on the monitor that has a password on there. Does the photo contain metadata in there? Things like geolocation and other information that might be relevant. Do they have a Twitter or Facebook page? If they do, you want to check those out also. So things like that you want to take a look at for company websites. Another thing you could do is each state should have some sort of business search page. So this page up here I have is for California, and that can be found at businesssearch.sos.ca.gov/cbs. So on this site, it's publicly available information. So you can search by corporation name, LP, LLC, entity number, and your search criteria. So a while back, I was actually doing an OSINT search on a company that I felt was a little questionable, and so I was able to use this site, and this is basically what it'll pull up. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on here. There we go. So I redacted some of the information on here. So things that you could find on here is the date that they filed, the corporation name, street address. Now down in here is actually information that actually came in really handy for me in determining how this company was being operated. So down in here it lists the who registered as a chief executive officer, the secretary, chief financial officer, and other directors of that company. So my particular case, I did find some names on there that actually came up as a conflict of interest. So again, doing a business search came in extraordinarily handy. And this is all publicly available information. Other places you can go to find more information out about companies is Bizpedia, found at bizapedia.com. And you can enter the company name, the city name, and the state and province to get more information. And another great place that has a lot of public information, a lot of companies register with the Better Business Bureau. So you could actually use this to find more information about that company, complaints, reviews, things like that. Potentially find more information and build a bigger picture about that particular company. So again, this was about business searches. Thank you. In this video, we're talking about resumes. Resumes can be a great way to find out more information about your particular target. Things like name, location, job skills, previous employers, what they're looking for, different skills they may have, email addresses. Resumes will generally contain a large amount of information that's going to be great for OSINT work. So some of the places that you can go to look for people's resumes, probably one of the bigger ones is going to be LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you're going to have to make an account to be able to browse the profiles, but considering how large LinkedIn is, it's a good chance your target is going to be on there. Other places that you could check are indeed.com/resumes. I clicked on the advanced tab here, so this is going to be a little bit harder to search for your target. You're going to have to generally know a little bit of information about them, potentially what their last job was, or job titles, or certain keywords to find your particular target. Another site you can go to is Search Resumes Free, which is over at jobvertise.com, jobvertise.com. Now, if you go on this site, you can actually search resumes within 30 days. So you can search in the United States, as you can see here. You can put down the miles, zip code, city, and enter keywords. So you're going to, again, with this site, you're going to have to create a account for this. And if you're not paying, you're only going to be able to search the last 30 days of job posts. So your mileage is going to vary on as far as if you're going to be able to find your target or not. There are a number of other sites that you could search resumes, like Monster is another large one that you could search on. However, you will need to pay for to search resumes as an employer. So again, this was a quick video about job resumes and how it can be used in terms of OSINT. Thank you. In this video, we're going to be talking about Google operators. So I think most people are going to be familiar with Google and doing searches on it. But what a lot of people don't know is that Google actually has advanced operator commands that you can actually enter, which is going to be really useful to you for when you're doing your OSINT searches. And to be honest, searches in general. So there's a number of commands, like I said, and I'm going to provide links to some of these things to help you with it. And we're only going to go through a few of these because there are a number of operators. So if we go to Google's site on this page here, we can see some of the commands are if you want to do a social media search, you could put an @ sign in front of your keyword. So, for example, at Twitter. If you want to do a price search here, you can put a $sign. So camera at $400. So it's going to pull up a bunch of cameras around that price range that it finds, or search for hashtags or other things. So this is actually a pretty cool list here, but there's actually a number of other operators that they don't even talk about on this page. And if I pull this up here, you can actually see some of them listed here. So let me go over a couple with you real quick here. So first one I want to show you is if you want to do a refined search, you could actually put in quotes here. Let's put down Udemy. And if we put that in quotes there, it's going to force Google to do an exact search for that. So in here you can see Udemy right here, Udemy Twitter, Udemy 386 photos, etc. Another one you could do is cache. So if you want to look for someone to see if there's a cache page, say you're looking for someone's Facebook page and they deleted something out, Google may have cached that previously. So if I do, say, let me spell that right, cache or cache, colon, let's do facebook.com, and then I'm going to do a /. I'm going to type in, let's try Udemy. I'm not even sure if they really do have a page. They probably do. So if I do that, it should pull up, yeah, there we go. Pulls up cache pages that Google cached for this. So as you can see here, this is Google's cache or cache, facebook.com Udemy. Its snapshot page appeared on June 22nd, 2018, 24, 20 seconds GMT time. So this is great for, again, if your target posted something to Facebook or Twitter and they deleted it, this is one tool you could use to see if you can go back and see if Google cached a previous version of it. That way you could find out what they posted before it got deleted. Now let's go back here. Go over a couple more. Okay, you could do all in text. So what this will do is it'll search for text on a specific page. So if I do all in text, I'm going to do colon social media links. It's going to go out and search for anything with social media links. So how to add, link all, how to create social media buttons, etc. We also could do search for file types. So if I do, say I want to search for passwords in a Word doc or Excel file, I could do passwords. And I'm going to do file type, all one word, colon. And let's say we want to do a Excel file. It's probably going to be likely. And in here we find different passwords are in an Excel file listed in here. So again, pretty useful. We could do site searches. Let's type in site colon www.facebook.com, and then we're going to search for John Doe. So this is going to search Facebook site for John Doe. So instead of just typing in John Doe and Google and having a billion search results, this is going to help isolate to Facebook. And so again, for a more comprehensive list, you could actually do a web search for Google Advanced Operators. I'll put this link in this video. You could, again, also search Google Support, which again, I'm going to put this in the links. And this is another site that's fantastic. Again, this will be in the links. This is called the Google Hacking or Google Hacking Database or Exploit Database. So what this is a gigantic collection of advanced Google search operators. So in here, you can search by category, footholds, sensitive information, vulnerable files, accessories, various vulnerabilities, the list goes on. And in here, this thing is constantly updated, as you see. So in here, if we take a quick look here, they list this category as files containing juicy info. So this is passport details, user IDs, VPN services, passwords, malware analysis reports, etc. So again, this is an absolutely amazing database for searching for information, especially if you're not quite sure how to phrase your search result. Chances are it's someone already searched at some point or something similar. So you could actually just pull up these things here and actually search for whatever you're looking for. So again, this was Google Advanced Operators. Thank you. In this video, we're going to be talking about Google Alerts, and it can be found at www.google.com/alerts. So once you go to the page, you want to make sure that you're logged in your Google account, which I'm already signed in here. So as you can see, Google Alerts will monitor the web for interesting new content. And that's done by typing in this search field here. So for OSINT purposes, Google Alerts is really handy and interesting tool because we can enter in names of our targets, people's names, businesses, any search criteria that you're looking for on that particular target or targets at the time. As soon as Google comes across it, it'll create an alert for you and email it off to you. So it makes things really handy. So for example, if I want to create an alert, say I'm searching on Udemy, I can simply type in Udemy and it's going to pull up a couple, if it has anything right off the bat, it's going to show you the alerts down here, so, and you can click in there. If you click on show options, you can set your little bit more granular search criteria, how often you want to search, sources, language, region, how many results, and where to deliver to. Once you set those criteria, you simply just click create alert, and it's going to send you an alert for it. If you need to go back to edit it, simply click this little pencil looking icon. It'll take you back in there to edit that search criteria. If it's not working for you, or you want to narrow it down or broaden it later, or if you want to delete it, you can simply click the delete button. So again, this is Google Alerts, a very useful tool for OSINT. Google Maps. It's a really incredible mapping program, great for getting directions and whatnot. Microsoft has a similar program called Bing Maps, which actually functions the same way. But for this lecture, we're going to be taking a look at Google Maps. So other than the obvious using Google Maps for directions to where you need to go, it is actually an incredible OSINT tool also. So for example, if you're doing OSINT on a target, whether it's a house or if it's a corporation, if you're doing, if you're a penetration tester or a hacker and your job is to physically infiltrate a location, Google Maps and Bing Maps are incredible tools for this purpose. So if you go to google.com/maps, it'll pull up the mapping program. So let me just click in here. I'm going to say put in the address for Mall of America. So say Mall of America is our target. We're tasked with infiltrating the Mall of America, test for physical security and whatnot. So as a OSINT or a pen tester, if you're going to physically get into a building, you'll want to take a look at, you'll want to do some reconnaissance. And one of the great ways to do it, other than physically visiting the location, is through a mapping program like Google Maps. So here we have the 2D map of Mall of America, and it lays out the different locations and whatnot. So if I click on this little icon down here that says satellite, it'll give me a satellite view, and it updates periodically, so it may be a little out of date depending on when the last time the satellite came by to take an image. But as a for OSINT, things that you might be looking at from this satellite view will be things like entry points. You'll want to take a look at the layout, obviously, potentially where fences are around the building, maybe where they have their dumpster. If you're a hacker or a pen tester, you'll probably want to do dumpster diving. That is going physically into the dumpster, pulling out information that components that sometimes people throw out that actually has a lot of really important information. Other things you might be looking for are potentially what type of HVAC unit they're using. You can go in and pretend that you're an HVAC repairman if you know what type of HVAC units that they're using, or what type of dumpster and disposal service they're using. Other things you'll want to take a look at is where their security cameras are. And you might be able to get a view from an aerial view here. Otherwise, if you want to get a street view, let me zoom out a little bit. You could take this little person in here and you just drag them, and you're going to want to drop it on kind of where the little blue lines are. If I try to drop it in too close, like say on top of the building, it's just going to kind of fly back there. So if I put them right there, let me zoom back in again. We can kind of drag around and get an idea of what the actual physical layout of the building looks like, and again, if there's any security cameras, where they are. We can try to look for blind spots and whatnot. So again, Google Maps and Bing Maps, incredible tools for OSINT work when you're investigating buildings. So again, this was a real quick look at Google Maps. In this video, we're using Google Images to do a reverse image search. Now, a reverse image search is essentially what it sounds like. You're taking an image and you're doing a search against it. So use cases for this in OSINT investigation might be you come across some images and you want to see where else they are, where they showed up. Now, I've used this personally to identify other websites. So for my particular use case, there was a image that was sent to a user. It was a disturbing image, so I went through the usual route, looked at the metadata, took a look at the image itself, and did a reverse search. So here is our Google Images. So if you do a search for Google Images, it'll take you here. Now it's pretty simple. If you click on this little camera icon here, you could either paste a URL in, which may or may not work depending on how the image is. If the image is say embedded in a Instagram account and you have to log into it, that might be a problem. Otherwise, if you have the image, you can just simply click this image here and then you choose file. And I'm going to choose this one here. Okay, and we're going to run this, and then Google's going to come up with all the images that it could find against that image. And it's also going to do similar images. So here I have some similar images in the actual image file. So again, the great thing about doing this is if you have an image, you check the metadata, you do a reverse search against it, and it may potentially take you to other sites where that image was being used. And again, that might also tie back to your whoever you're investigating and expanding that information. So again, this was Google Image Search. And as far as the image search tools are, and we're going to take a look at a couple of them, I have to admit, Google actually does come up with, tends to come up with more than the other ones I've used. Again, Google Image Search. Thank you for watching. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at reverse email searches. So you may be in a situation where you have an email address, but you're not sure who it belongs to, where they're from, or what else this email account is associated to. So there's a few ways we could take a look at this. So one way is you could use a people search program. Pipple, Spokio, I have a couple up here. I got BeenVerified.com. Let's start with this one here. So I already have our email address in here, dispogames@gmail.com. I'm going to click search. Okay, and this is going to be pretty common with all the people search ones. You're going to see a progress bar, you'll see a spinning circle, or it'll flash a bunch of random pictures of people that are supposedly searching through. This is going to take a little bit, so I'm going to let that run. And I ran a couple other ones here. So this one is this one is www.behind.email. Now this one actually pulled up a little bit more information. Typically these sites aren't real great about finding real information about the email addresses, so your mileage is going to vary just like any other tool. This one was a little bit more accurate than usual. It did come up with the name that I used for that Gmail account, Jeff M. Came with a little icon picture. Then again, if they actually searched, say, the Google Plus, you'll probably find it too. But it came up with 3 social networks and 1 photo. And for a one-time fee of $1.99, you can unlock more information. But chances are it's not going to find that much info out. Another one that I pulled up was InfoTracer. Let me go back one screen here. And it's infotracer.com. This one came up with a IP address, country, address, ISP. Now, a lot of times these people search sites will come up with information like this, or email search programs. So this IP is actually not my IP. It's not an IP that I've used before. This is actually Google's IP address if you look it up. Country is US, which is actually true. That's only because Google's located in the US. Mountain View, California, that's nowhere really near where I'm at. This is actually Google, again, Google's address. So trying to track down a Gmail user's address, even using email headers, you're not going to be real successful. You're going to come up with Google's information, just like pretty much any other email address. So that's going to be the problem with email nowadays. It's not like how it was, say, 20 years ago. You used to be able to grab the email headers, parse out where the location was. Nowadays, that information is masked by not the ISP, by the email provider. So as you see here, the information that it pulled is all of Google's information. Now another thing that you could do is you could do a Google Advanced search. So what I did here was I put dispogames@gmail.com in quotes. So what that'll do is it isolates that Gmail search down to that email address. So in here you could see a few Amazon.com hits for a couple apps, and these are apps that actually did develop under the Dispo Games name, or email address rather. So that's actually very accurate. Scrolling down in here, I also see that some of my apps were actually stolen upload to foreign websites, so that's actually good information for me personally. Um, so as you can see here again, it really just isolated down the search results. So instead of, well, see, we have 2 pages of Google results. So pretty short. Now versus if I took this out of quotes, let's see how many hits we would get. Okay, so this wasn't too bad. It came up with the same number of results. 2 pages, 80 hits. So still pretty good. Alright, so let me show you another way to find email addresses. So, if you want to see if that email address was used for a certain social media site, like say Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of these sites, one way you could do it is you could say you forgot your account. A lot of times this will either allow you to type in a phone number or email address or both to try to recover your account. So in this case, if we go on facebook.com and click forgot account, it's going to come up with this page here. So I already populated the email address, and again we can, at least for this example, we could actually type in a phone number too if we had a phone number that we're searching. But right now we're talking about email. So in here I have dispogames@gmail.com. And I'm going to click search. And it's going to go through, and lo and behold, it actually found that Gmail account on Facebook's server. So going this route, I verified that yes, this email account does have in fact have a Facebook account. And I could see the Facebook username here, Disposable GM. So now I could actually start searching Facebook for Disposable GM and actually find more information about my target. So another way we could find information out is we could do Have I Been Pwned? Okay, so if we go to haveibeenpwned.com, we could type in an email address, dispogames@gmail.com, and we click the pwn button, and here we go. So we can see if this was part of any data breaches, and we can potentially find out what other sites they have emails are linked to. So in here I see it was actually linked to a Dropbox account and an Adobe account. So again, this is great information, especially if that email, our target's email address was used for a lot of other sites, say a Pastebin account or a Instagram or LinkedIn account. Again, that'll just save us time from going to each site and doing a search on those email addresses. Okay, and there's one last one I want to show you. So I got our Buscador VM running here. Let me log back in here. And I fired up Maltego, which we could actually just run from this icon right here. Now, once you have Maltego loaded up, then you start a new graph by clicking this button here. I'm just going to drag this email address right over here. Okay, and then I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to clear this one out. I'm going to type in dispogames@gmail.com. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to right click this. And I'm going to run this Perturba CTASCE, and I'm going to just run all the transforms. Okay, give that a second while it's running, and here we go. So it verified the email address does exist. It is a Gmail address, and it looks like this is one of the accounts it's tied to is Flickr. So, um, going off our Have I Been Pwned, that found a Dropbox account, which Maltego didn't. However, Have I Been Pwned didn't find the Flickr account. So it's good to run multiple tools to help verify your data. So if I just run this, I could try to do Flickr and Friends. I don't think there's going to be a lot of information that comes up. Yep, nothing. And if I just run a transform on the Gmail, it's just going to find more Gmail stuff. So say if this was a corporate email address or a private one, if they have a hosting their own website, this would actually probably be a lot more informative to us. But in this case, since it's just a generic Gmail address, it's coming. We could actually just see a lot of the Google stuff in here, which is. I just want to show you that real quick. So again, these are a lot of tools that you could use to help find reverse email searches. And as always, I encourage you to don't just use one tool. Use multiple tools because, as we saw here, Maltego found the Flickr account. Have I Been Pwned found the Dropbox account. The people search sites found a little bit another piece of information. So all these different tools will help build a larger picture. And it'll also help verify your information that you're finding because not all these things are going to be accurate. So again, this was reverse email searches. Thank you.
Get some reverse phone number options. Now, reverse phone number options means that we find a phone number, whether we're given a phone number to begin with, someone's getting harassed and they have identify a certain phone number, or if we're doing searching someone and we find some phone numbers and we want to try to get more information from that. This is where this is going to come in handy. Now, a lot of times, at least in my experience when I've been dealing with phone numbers, a lot of it tends to be if someone's getting a harassing text message or whatnot, it tends to be a VoIP type service, something like text-free or other free programs where you log in a browser, you enter the information in, and you can start sending text messages to people's cell phones or even making phone calls to a cell phone or landline. Now the problem with this is if you do a reverse search, it will give you some information. You'll probably be able to find out, hey, this person is using text-free, for example. It's not going to give you the identity of the user, not through that route at least. In these situations, you're probably going to have to contact whatever the service provider is, like text-free or whatnot, explain to them that someone's getting harassed and see if you can get resolution that way. Otherwise, if you have a phone number, it could even be businesses, you're doing more research on a business or whatnot. This is how you could do some of that investigation. So I have my CSI Linux instant open here, and I have opened up the browser. In this case, I'm using Firefox. Now, for this one, we could actually go into some of the lookup tools here, and the first one is the free reverse phone number lookup. And let me zoom in a little bit, try to make this a little bit easier to read. Okay, and again, if I go to lookup tools here on the top, reverse phone number. Sorry about that. Reverse phone number lookup, cell phone or landline. And that's going to bring you to this tab here. Now, the one they have here is Spy Dialer. So it's a free phone, people, address, email search. So pretty well encompassing different aspects. So for this example, let me grab Best Buy Florida's number here. So I'm just going to copy this here. And we're going to paste it in here and see how this works. Okay, so 3-digit dash, 3-digit dash, 4-digit. And of course, this is for the US, so if you're in Europe, this is not going to work for you unless you're looking for someone in the US. So let's click on search and see how this works. Okay, so this is going through the system here. If there's a voicemail, typically you might be able to click on the voicemail here and listen to what it sounds like. From the voicemail, you might be able to determine what service carrier they're using. And let's do a click on search here. Okay, so it did actually come back with the right one. It's here's the phone number. It's Best Buy. We could do phone details and try to get more details on that. Okay, and it gives us a possible location, which is going to be pretty useful, especially if the information's accurate. I like to run this stuff through multiple search engines because, in my experience, I found that it's not always accurate. Maybe the phone number changed, especially cell phone numbers change quite a bit. Someone drops a cell phone number, someone picks up the new number, and that information that I'm pulling out is old. So I like to use 2 or 3 sources typically if I can to try to verify the information. But in this case, it looks like it's been in service for over 2 years. It's a landline. It gives us the percentage here. And we could do, let me go back here. And we could if it's tied to a social media, we could try to do a photo lookup, see what type of photos are on there and whatnot. So pretty cool service. Pretty good amount of information from it. Other routes we can go through are dehashed. We can try to put the phone number in dehashed and see if it was part of a data breach and see where that data breach was used. We could also use things like people. It's really cool. It'll pull out a lot of information, especially if it belongs to a person. This is a paid service. In my opinion, it's a little pricey, but for what you get out of it, you can get a lot of information from this. So it's a pretty cool service, and it makes things a lot easier. There's also 411. We could put this in. It'll just give us some basic information here. So if I do this, I can paste this in again. Make sure you put the dashes in there. Don't put the parentheses in there. And I'm going to click on search. And I already can see up here Best Buy. It's in Homestead, Florida. And it gives us an address here and a link to it. So pretty useful. Again, I could take this information here. Just by the area code, I can tell kind of the area it's in. But I can reference that back to, say, Spy Dialer. Make sure the information is correct. So again, these are some ways to do a reverse phone lookup. There are additional tools, things like Skip Tracer, that we'll take a look at later. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.